What do you think would be the biggest thing lesson that you learned for yourself?
I think the biggest lesson that I've learned for myself is never to give up. It's to always look on the bright side of life and to really kind of look at things in a positive light. I think a lot of times we have things in our life that doesn't go to plan, that doesn't go right, but it's really about looking at it in a positive light and looking at what can we do better next time, what can we continue to do to move forward and move forward in a positive way.
Hello, everybody. Today we have Matt Levy with us today, who's a Paralympian. But we're talking to him about his book, Brandon Dreams Big, and about his life as a swimmer, which is very much entwined within the book. So have you found that children have come up to you and have been able to associate themselves with the goal setting within this book?
Yeah, definitely the book's been really good to be able to share my message and be able to share what success means. Because I guess at the end of the day, success is different for different people. And yeah, it gives people something tangible to understand and something to strive for, and gives them, I guess, an understanding of, I guess, what goals are. And for me, when I created the book, it wasn't so much about sharing my journey. It was really about sharing the experiences I've learned and what I've been able to do in my life and in my sporting career.
Setting goals is something that you have to do as part of coming on to the NDIS, and a lot of people aren't familiar with doing it when you ask them, what are your goals? So this is something that I think even for adults is something that would be useful for to talking you through how the goals are stages from the beginning, where you know the big goal, like so the big goal was you wanted to be an Olympic swimmer, and then you break it down to, well, I want to be you wanted to be able to do the turn properly in the pool, and then you had to build back up to the bigger goal over time. How long did it take you from the moment you knew you wanted to do that to realizing that moment?
Fairly long time. I remember watching the Paralympic Games in 2000, and that was kind of when I got that first inkling to want to kind of do something more than just swim laps up and down. And that was way back in 1999, 2000, and I first represented Australia in 2004. So it was around four or so years after that, and a lot of kilometers in the pool, a lot of early mornings, a lot of soul searching, and a lot of learning new skills and getting towards, I guess, those smaller goals as well. Because I think the original aim for me was to be happy and enjoy myself, and wanting to go to a Paralympic Games was the big goal, but you had to kind of meet the smaller goals in between. And first was making teams and doing PBs and getting faster and all that kind of stuff in between. So there was certainly a lot of water under the bridge to get to the big goal of the Paralympic Games.
So for people that don't know you, you're a swimmer and a Paralympic swimmer. What does that mean to somebody who doesn't know?
Yeah, sure. So I was born at 25 weeks. So born pretty early, back in 1987. When I was born, I had a bleed on the brain in the first 3, 4 days of life, which caused me to have a neurological condition called cerebral palsy. So for me, talking sometimes, moving my arms and legs, walking upstairs, walking downstairs, putting toothpaste on toothbrushes, that kind of stuff is really difficult. And as a consequence of a bleed on the brain, I became vision impaired or legally blind. So I can see about 2 meters centrally and have no peripheral vision. So for me, it's like looking into a tunnel, essentially. I have a physical disability and a sensory disability to contend with, and that's, I guess, kind of how I am eligible to be in the Paralympic Games.
And is that something that is it a community that stays with you, or is it only when you're competing?
I think it's for me. It's definitely a community that stays with me. Well, obviously, when I'm competing, you see a lot of people, different people from different walks of life, people with different disabilities, competing, and you create those friendships throughout your time at the Paralympic Games, during meets nationally and internationally, and you continue those friendships moving forward and long after your competing days. And for me, it's really, I guess, a one big family, and you learn a lot of how everyone kind of deals with their own challenges and deals with life through the Paralympics, and you continue to build those friendships long after you've finished competing.
And do you get help and sponsorship when you become a member of the team?
No, it's all up to the individual to first off train and first off fundraise for their different endeavours around the Paralympic Games, and to get to the starting line. When we make Paralympic Games, depending on what sport, most sports are covered from a flight perspective. And when we get to the Paralympic Games, that's covered. But to actually make it and get to the starting line, the cost of living and all the money involved to get to that starting line is covered by the individual.
So you had to get very good at fundraising?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that was one of the reasons why I started the book, and to get my story out there and to give people a understanding and a perspective, but also help in the day-to-day expenses to get to the Paralympic Games, to get to those international meets, national meets, cover the cost of training and all that kind of stuff as well.
Do you feel that you achieved what you wanted to do when you set your goals?
Yeah, I think for me, it's always been about the enjoyment factor and wanting to be the best version of myself. And it has really always been about what I can do better and how I can add value. And I think I've definitely done that in my career. And yeah, I look back on my career now, and it's been a privilege to be able to do what I've done. And I think I've been able to learn a lot throughout the course of my sporting career. And hopefully I can kind of share a lot of those experiences in other parts of my life moving forward.
So what countries did you travel to when competing?
I've traveled to Athens, China, traveled to Brazil, Rio de Janeiro, traveled to Japan, traveled to the US multiple times, Canada multiple times, Australia a lot, obviously around the country. I've probably traveled to around 40 odd countries for my sport. This year alone, we've traveled to Birmingham, the Commonwealth Games in England, and Portugal in Madeira for the World Championships. And Birmingham Commonwealth Games was my last international meet in August. But yeah, so I've traveled a fair bit throughout my 20-year swimming career, and yeah, it's been really enjoyable.
So now that you've retired from swimming, is that because you've aged out like all athletes? Is that what it is? Get
No,
too old?
I guess wanted to experience different things. I wanted to be able to do different things in my life, and swimming for your country, any sport really, you have to, I guess, you have to train, you have to set goals. You have to be able to keep improving. And I felt that I'd done a lot of things throughout my life. I made Paralympic Games, I made World Championships, Commonwealth Games, and I felt that I wanted to experience different things. And that was kind of the reasoning behind me stopping. And I was still really enjoying it, but I wanted to experience new things and experience different things throughout life. And yeah, it's been so far so good. And I've been out of the competitive side of things since August, and yeah, really enjoying it.
So what's the plan? You have a degree or two, don't you?
I currently work for Bank of Queensland, so I've just getting my head around all things in the financial industry, and really helping kind of at the moment promoting my book, doing a lot of talks, podcasts, and that kind of thing, and really being able to share my book through the talks and podcasts and with the wider community, and to really kind of get the message of what success really is and what a goal really is out there.
Well, everyone has their Everest. For some people, it can be something like putting the toothpaste on the toothbrush, and other people, it's competing at an international level. But and it's it's good for everybody, no matter who you are, to have some form of goal. Who are the kind of people that you think benefit best from your talks?
I think anyone and everyone that really kind of goes into a talk with an open mind and wants to get something out of it. I think at the end of the day, you can't force people to listen. You can't really tell them what they want to hear, but you can give them, I guess, your perspective and your understanding of what you're talking about. And for me, it's just really about giving them an understanding of what I've gone through and the experiences I've gone through, and giving them, I guess, a different perspective and a different insight into life. I think is the biggest thing for me. And it's about sharing different experiences and different lessons that I've learned along the way.
What do you think would be the biggest thing that you lesson that you learned for yourself?
I think the biggest lesson that I've learned for myself is never to give up. It's to always look on the bright side of life and to really kind of look at things in a positive light. I think a lot of times we have things in our life that doesn't go to plan, that doesn't go right. But it's really about looking at it in a positive light and looking at what can we do better next time? What can we continue to do to move forward and move forward in a positive way?
So it's about mental resilience, isn't it? Rather
I,
than
I think so. For
yeah.
me, it's really about that attitude and that mindset and that mental resilience behind it.
That's what I really get from you is the mental resilience. It's, failure only happens when you call it. If you stop trying, then you're going to fail. In fact, you say words to that effect in your book. Especially for kids, they say some have unrealistic expectations for their lives, or expectations that are realistic with an awful lot of work and discipline that don't realise quickly. So I think that's what's the good thing to learn about goal setting and mental resilience. Even just getting through your studies in school, kids are taught that, do you remember, oh, if you don't make it through year 12, that's it. That's the end of your life. And I know with my kids, they felt that way. Whereas there are so many pathways to continue with education and set new goals. You might have to take a different path to get there, but it's a possibility if you just find a new way of doing it. And that's very much about disability in itself, isn't it? For a lot of people, they have to find a different way of doing the same thing, and I don't think that applies any differently to anybody.
Yeah, exactly. I think for me, I didn't do so well in year 12. I didn't get enough marks to get into uni. So I went and did a diploma at night school, and then I did that for about a year and a half. From there, I was able to get into uni and go through that pathway. And yeah, like you said, there's a lot of pathways and a lot of opportunities to be able to do what you want to do. Sometimes you have to go a little bit differently than you anticipated. And yeah, it's just really kind of being open and honest with yourself and really trying the best you can to give 100%.
Well, you're hugely tenacious, definitely, aren't you? Um, um, do you have anything in your life? Does it touch the NDIS at all?
Uh, I'm currently on a few boards, and one of the boards I'm on, we do a lot of stuff with NDIS. They support a lot of people with a disability in employment and accommodation housing. And yeah, so we kind of touch a lot on NDIS around employment plans, around their plans for their lives, and how, I guess, that affects what they do day in, day out. And yeah, it's really great to, I guess, be on the other side of the coin, having a disability. I guess what that side of the coin looks like, but to be on the other side of the coin and kind of know what the participants deal with day in, day out is really uh, different. And yeah, it's really great perspective from my end to kind of really understand both sides.
Well, especially now we've got this big reset that's pretty exciting. I think my biggest hope is that it makes it more accessible. There's a lot of families, they basically have to have a full-time person working on it, and knowing how to get into some of these things, like sport, so that somebody has this sort of something to set goals around in their life. because quite often when you have a disability, your world is determined by those that contain your boundaries until you get old enough to sort of get yourself out there. So for accessibility to sport, I think so that people can have the same experience that is really down to your amazing family in the early days when you were only little, to have those ideas and to take you there, and for you to even realize, oh, this is something I'm pretty good at and I really enjoy.
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, that was the key. Like my family were very instrumental in sending me on the right direction. They were the ones that dropped me to training in the mornings. They're the ones that I guess told me this was good for me to do. All the therapy that I did in the early years and all that kind of stuff. So it's really thanks to I guess their direction and their push, I guess, that kind of who I am today. And I guess that's kind of one of the other reasons why I decided to write my book. It's to share that message to others and to share that experience with others, to be able to teach them that life is hard, but life does have an end road and a light at the end of the tunnel. And it's just a matter of putting one step in front of the other and kind of finding different experiences and different people.
And certainly family and community and those people in your social capital circle are really important, creating those bonds. I was never very good at swimming. I sort of perfected a doggy paddle. I have always panicked in the water. I got to go along with a few participants to immersion therapy, and I didn't even like having the mask on me. It's like I had to be collected from the bottom of the pool. Because for me, psychologically, just having the water on my face, I never really, and my middle child has the same thing. The others are like little fish, they love it. It's part of our culture here in Australia, is that everyone sort of has to learn how to swim. But yeah, the middle one didn't, never liked water, much like me. So we've never managed to get over that. So if you're in Adelaide, I might have to grab you for half an hour and you can show her that it's not that scary. It's hard. It's because finding
Yeah,
those
it's just
people, mentoring is actually very difficult to find the right teacher, the right mentor. Are you going to go down that path at all where you lead others?
Yeah, I think I kind of do that in any case now. I think through the book, Brandon Dreams Big, it's really teaches people through me without me actually teaching them, if that makes sense. And I think I do mentor people, whether it's the young kids coming through, whether it's people that I talk to. I guess I kind of mentor in a different way. It's through my talks, it's through the books, it's through, I guess, different parts of the stuff that I do. I kind of do a bit of mentoring in that space. It's not the generic mentoring of sitting down, talking, and communicating one on one, but it's certainly a type of mentoring.
Well, you've made yourself accessible, and your plans and how to get there accessible, of how you set things out in your mind to go ahead and achieve them, um, which is really important because a lot of people don't tend to do that. The other issue in is obviously about premature births, and it's something that I've been quite passionate about in the past. My firstborn was quite premature also. Do you do any work in that particular space?
Yeah, so I'm an ambassador for Life's Little Treasures, which is a national premature birth, raising awareness for premature birth and kids that are born with illness. So I'm on the board of that particular charity as well. They're Melbourne based, but national. So that's really close to my heart. I've been part of part of them since 2011, 2012. So yeah, definitely something close to my heart, being born early and kind of sharing, I guess, my experiences around that, and being someone that's been through it, being able to, I guess, show them what's possible and what's, I guess, what I've been able to deal with and what I've been able to go through. It's been really uplifting, and to be on the board side of things as well. It's been really great to be able to share the knowledge of what I've been able to go through in the 36 years that I've been alive, and how that's helped me, and what I feel as is potentially useful, and that kind of stuff. So it's something really close to my heart.
Have things improved in that space, do you think, since 36 years ago?
Yeah, I remember when I was born, people were being born without limbs, without body parts. People didn't make it through the first couple of weeks. Now they're getting an understanding of what to do when people are born early, and how, I guess, to approach it, and what to do from a scientific and a hospital perspective. So I think it's definitely being advanced in the last many years since I was born, and since your kids are born too. So it's been really
My daughter's a
great to be able
little
to.
bit younger than you, and we were in Western
Yeah. So
Australia. It's quite terrifying because you can't hold your baby, and you think you're never
yeah,
going
yeah,
to.
I can imagine.
And I don't think that trauma ever leaves the parents. You tend to be you get in as many cuddles later on as you can.
Yeah,
Yeah, you have to catch up for that time. And the little tiny beanies and the little tiny dolls' clothes that they have for them, and it's
yeah.
yeah, you can get proper little clothes now rather than stealing dolls' clothes, I believe, and little tiny mittens. Because the one thing that definitely did grow were the little nails. They're scratching your faces, so they had little mittens. So even though
Yeah.
the fingers were starting to move, it's like they got mittened up. No, not allowed, not allowed. Yeah. So you live in Queensland.
Yeah, so I moved here in August, and yeah, I've been here for a couple of months now, and back home in Sydney for the Christmas. But yeah, enjoying it so far.
When you were traveling about, did you notice any differences in accessibility between the countries you traveled to?
Yeah, some are really good, some weren't so good. I think the good ones uh, didn't just have a ramp, they didn't just have a tactile sensor on the wall. They were really all inclusive. They had uh, a lot of different accessibility items to be able to help people navigate. I think Australia is really good in that respect, in terms of having a lot of different stuff to be able to give people that well-rounded accessibility. And I think some places in the US were good when I went there. Other places in Europe probably not so good, with the cobblestones and the like. Uh,
No,
but Yeah,
cobblestones
different
wouldn't be
countries.
very accessible.
No, definitely not. But I think yeah, it's being open to different things. I think because different countries have different rules, and different countries have different regulations. So it's really about not saying this isn't accessible and this isn't correct, but really kind of working with what you've got, and making sure you do your research. I think is the biggest thing that I can kind of give. Making sure you ring up the hotel that you're going to, make sure you ring up the places you want to go to, and making sure that they are going to meet your needs. I think that's probably the
That's
biggest
difficult to
tip I
do.
can give.
That's very difficult to do when you ring somebody. And when I had to learn this for checking for participants, when you ring and say, "Are you accessible?" you have to know what you mean by that. And they have to
Yeah,
understand they don't mean a ramp. So for somebody who's not in a wheelchair, um, for somebody with, say, vision issues, what does accessible mean for you?
for me, it means, am I able to go to the lift without having items in the way? Am I able to know where the transport is? Am I able to know where the food hall is? If you're in a hotel, it's those little things, those main things that you, I guess, think are easy to find, that people take for granted. It's the main kind of locations, the main aspects of your travel experience, that I would want to know where it is, if it's easy to get to, what floor, whether it's the mezzanine level, whether you need to swipe your key to access your level in the lift, all those little things that I guess we take for granted a lot of the times. for the sighted people. But for me, I guess I've been very good at asking questions and asking of that, but a lot of people don't. So it's really about if you're vision impaired or blind, going with someone, making sure that they're aware of what your needs are and the specific questions that you would normally ask in a hotel situation.
Do you think legislation matches those expectations, or do we have somewhere to travel?
I think we're getting better. I think this year with Gillian Olcott being Australian of the Year helped open up those doors and open up the understanding for what needs to change and how much we need to change. And I think it's slowly getting better in the workplaces. It's not as prevalent. It needs to be a bit more understanding around it and around disability, around what it means to have a disability, what it means to be accessible, and all that kind of stuff in between. And same in society. Some areas are really great, some areas not so good. And it's really about continuing to have that conversation and continuing to have that understanding of what it means and what it means to be accessible and have a disability and to be all inclusive.
Now, your book is a great leveler because it shows that everybody has dreams and has to set goals and aspire and work towards them. But so when we're talking about that level of inclusion, we talk about attitudes and understanding of disability. I think that is probably one of the greatest barriers to accessibility is people understanding. Is that something that we need to do in our education system, or is it just exposure? Are we still too
I think it's
segregated?
I think it's a bit of both. A lot of disabilities are invisible. Like for example, I'm not missing an arm. I'm not in a wheelchair, so it makes it difficult to people to relate to me as having a disability unless I tell them.
Yeah.
And it's no different to a lot of other disabilities out there. It's really about not assuming that people are who they look like they are, and really kind of being not afraid to have that conversation with people and not afraid to just say hello if they look different, not afraid to ask questions if they're doing something doesn't look like it's normal, being not afraid to really kind of make friends with someone that you would never usually make friends with. It's really about being comfortable to have those conversations and to be uncomfortable in certain situations when you're talking to people. And it's that understanding of the understanding that we're different and everyone's different in their own way, and to really kind of understand people for who they are, not what they look like and what they project.
I know, for instance, I have autism, and recently I was at Parliament House, and I was in the speaker's box watching, and the bells here in Adelaide are really strong. They're the old fashioned bell, and I've not. It's very rare that I'll have a sensory issue, but it absolutely floored me. I couldn't. It affects my vision. I can't see properly, and causes physical pain. So, there one minute I'm there engaged and listening, and next minute, I've got a problem. I need to sort of get out the way. And it's really because I didn't know that was going to happen. It was incredibly embarrassing, and I didn't know how to articulate, because it was happening at the time, what my issue was. Whereas in Canberra, they got nice, soft, gentle bells. So I'll go and
Yeah,
watch
so it's
Question Time there. It's like I can cope with that. I can cope with loud noise, but it was just the particular pitch and vibration. I was talking to the Adelaide Zoo recently, and they were saying, "Oh, we're going to have sensory time," and they were doing it in the morning, and I said, "No, we're nocturnal. You got to do it at night for us." So there are a lot of mums with kids with autism hanging out in the nocturnal sections. And I think that's why a lot of them like snakes and frogs and things, because at every zoo we spent with my kids, we used to spend a lot of time in there, having, because it was cooler in there as well on a hot day, but also because of the just taking out the light just sort of made people
yeah,
comfortable again. So
yeah,
you can't
definitely.
always
It's
say what you
definitely
need
some.
either. Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, definitely we need to work on that a little bit. I think it's getting better, but yes, it definitely needs to be something that needs to be a bit of more of an education piece. for our schools, but also in society as well.
For lived experience to be doing the accessibility is a good idea as well. So if someone like you goes and checks it out, it's far different than somebody checking some legislation boxes.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's definitely a good point as well. And it's not just ticking boxes. It's really about getting in there and showing what the real experience is and what someone with a
Yeah, actually, no,
disability
that's not
sees and
accessible.
does.
Yeah, because healthcare is like
Yeah,
that. It's not very accessible for someone
yeah,
with physical disabilities to get a bone density scan or X-rays or a Pap smear.
yeah,
Those sorts of things for girls in wheelchairs is very, very difficult. I have a friend with cerebral palsy who I tried to assist her with an X-ray on her foot, and the radiographer wasn't having it, and I just wanted to roll her around because can't move her hips that way. It won't happen. And it upset for her
yeah.
everything else. It was like dominoes. So I was trying to explain, if we roll around, but I know I've been doing this for 20 years, and sure enough, it didn't work well. And she shut me in the
No, of
cupboard.
course.
But I got out. It was all fine. Do you continue to swim? Do you still love it?
Yeah, so I do continue to swim a couple of times a week, and yeah, I do keep myself active because being active is really good, important for your health, and yeah, I try and definitely keep myself active most days. So it's definitely part of my life.
You're definitely tremendously fit in the last lot of swimming photos. Like, wow, it's like there's a hell of a lot of effort put into that. Do you do like gym work as well as being in the pool?
Yeah, we do a bit of both, and yeah, I just try and keep myself active these days and make sure keep myself physically and mentally active.
Okay, well, I hope next time you come to Adelaide, you come down and see us. I'd really like to
Yeah,
meet
we'll
you in
do, and
person, Matt.
thank
We're going to get Rory to put up the QR code, and you just scan it with your phone. Or if you put in the comment section that you're interested in and you can't scan it, let me know, and we'll get a copy out to you. It's definitely even good for setting your goals, for helping you through. There's some exercises and things in there along with the story that you can do that help you out and along through it. And I think it's and not just for younger children, but definitely for younger children as well, whoever they are, when setting little goals. Maybe they're musical goals to join an orchestra, or maybe they are sport related. It's definitely something to teach people to aspire and work towards something in life. And how many gold medals was it? Was it, Matt? It was one bronze, one.
uh, 9 medals in total.
That's amazing. You're an
No
inspiration to
worries.
anybody who's ever set
Thank
goals,
you.
Matt. Take care and Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Bye bye.